My Mother, The Person and the Patient is an original podcast written and hosted by me, Fatuma Kuso. This podcast is about my mother, Timira Abdulsamid Mohammed, Ayaya we call her. That's grandmother in Somali. And her great-grandchildren call her Ayaya too, and that is their way of saying great-grandmother. This might not be familiar to everyone listening to this podcast. However, those of us immigrants that come from war-torn, economically challenged countries, we are always sending stipend, a little bit of money, whether that's $50 or $100 to someone, family member, a friend, relatives. We are sending that stipend all the time. And I'm from Somalia, and Somalia could serve an example of how a stipend of a little bit from everyone in the diaspora that's originally from Somalia and their children are sending a little bit of money. And when you pull that together, it's an astronomical amount of money by the millions that's going into the country every year and help maintain the survival rate of those that live in there over 30 years since Somalia's collapse in 1990. So my mother particularly was sending those stipend because she knows what it's like to struggle. She knows what it's like to face challenges because she had faced a lot of challenges from the time she was a girl. And she's always willing to lend a hand, if she can, to somebody struggling. And even if she doesn't have the money, she will get it from us because we're giving her something every month to support her. And she would use some of that, even if that means she denied herself something. So with this one particular month, my mother and I were going to the bank because she wanted to send $100 to this person or that person. I'm only there to translate for her. I'm not a joint in her account, and I am not authorized to take anything out, but I always would take her to the bank, translate for her, and she will take what she needs to take out of there, and then we will go from there. So this one particular month, it was the regular time. At the end of the month, we needed to go to the bank, the credit union she was banking with, take that money, exchange the Canadian funds to American funds, and then go to the place where we call it Hawala, but it's it's a money transfer that became really a saving for Somalia when the entire financial infrastructure, the banks and everything else to go with it had collapsed in the country. So we get in line, and we ask for this money, and the woman looks at me and she says, there is no money in this account. There is like $15 or something like that. And my mother had good money in there. There should have been money in that account. And I said, there should have been money in that account. Who took the money? Mom, were you there? And she looks at me and she says, how would I get here without you? Right? So I turned back to the teller and I said, there is something really not right with this. My mother should have had X number of dollars in this account, and now you're telling me there's less than $20 in there. How is that possible? And she said, okay, let me look. And then she looks in, investigates, talks to somebody, calls somebody else. I don't know what she did. She was in the back talking to somebody, and she comes back out. And then she says, day such, perhaps 2 weeks before that, your mother was here with somebody else, and she withdrew this amount of money, literally cleaned her entire account. And I said, Mom, who were you here with? And she says, I didn't come here and I didn't take any money out of this bank. I don't know what they're talking about. They probably stole my money and I need my money back right now. And the bank is telling me, we have no money to give her. She withdrew the money. We have a document showing that she signed. That's what it says on here. But if you want me to investigate this, we need to do this. We need to talk to this person. We need to get all the signed receipts back so we can see what day it was, what time it was. But it says here, your mother took the money out on this particular day. But she said, if your mother is insisting she didn't take the money and something else happened, we don't think it did. But as a bank, we need to investigate and figure out what day, whether she signed it or not, and when she signed it and all that. My mother is so upset. She's beyond upset. And she's saying, they took my money and now they're saying they don't have my money. I need the money because I have this woman that's waiting for me. She had her child who broke his leg and she needs to take him to the doctor and she has no money to pay for the doctor. I'm not leaving this bank until they give me my money, and I'm going to take all my money and I'm not going to use a bank. So my mother just went off the deep end with that. So I told her, Mom, just listen to me. I'll give you the $100 to send it to the woman right now, but the bank needs to investigate. And if they find out you didn't take the money, then you are going to get your money, right? But if you took the money out, we have to figure out. And every time I mention there is a possibility that she had taken the money out, she would just get so upset. She would get irate. I have to tell her that it's the bank's fault to just calm her down. And they're going to investigate. And for sure, they're going to find out you didn't take this money and you're going to get your money back. So that's how I calmed her down. We took the $100 out of my bank account. We sent the money to the woman. We came home. I calmed her down, but I'm puzzled. How could my mother get to the bank to take this money out? And why would she take this money out? But the bank said they need time, and they said they will call me as soon as they figure out one way or the other. Great. So we get home, and a few days pass, and I'm really worried about where could this money go. One Saturday, as we lifted the mattress, below the mattress, it's all her money in 20s and 50s wrapped in a towel, and then she lined them under the mat. So when we lifted the mattress grabbed the towel, and there was money flying all over the place. And I said, Mom, what's this? And she didn't know what that was. She said, I don't know what this is. So I counted it. It was the exact amount of money that was taken out of her account. And I realized now we're in trouble. She's taking money out of the bank and she wouldn't really know, A, if she took it, and B, what she did with it. So I took the money, went back to the bank, and I said, listen, this is what happened. Because of her Alzheimer's, my mother must have withdrawn the money and forgotten about it. Now what I need is that my mother not be able to withdraw any money out of her account unless I am with her. So they said, in order for you to do that, you have to get power of attorney to us that shows that your mother gave you power of attorney on her finances. Luckily, I had that done when she first got sick and I needed to deal with the doctors. And I didn't really know I had this in there. I thought I only had a power of attorney for her medical care. When I flipped through the papers and read the power of attorney carefully, I realized I had both power of attorney for both her finances and her health care. So I took a copy of that, and then I took it to the bank, and then they put that on her file. They add me to the account and put it on her file that my mother will not be able to withdraw money unless I was there, but I was able to withdraw money without my mother being there. So that's how we set it up. So if you are at the beginning of dealing with Alzheimer's on your parents or your spouse, your loved ones, it's really a good idea to have a power of attorney that covers both the finances and the health, while your loved one is still cognitively able to make that decision. For me, I would have never thought about this financial aspect of it because my mother doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have too many assets, right? What she has was really a little bit of things that I didn't really worry about this happening. But then I realized even if somebody has $500 in their account and they can take that money out and not really know what they did with it, then that's a challenge. And that's something that I would advise if you are at the beginning. I am at the tail end of this challenge. So if you are at the beginning of it, I think this would be a good thing, something that says you have the power of attorney to deal with their finances and to deal with their health care. When you listen to how we arrived at my mother's diagnosis and what followed, it's so easy to see her just as the patient, to see her as nothing more than the disease that reduced her to shell of her old self. But I want to also to tell you about my mother, the person, the fierce woman that told her stories unapologetically, celebrating the beautiful parts and harsh realities equally. I want to share with you the stories she told us about her life as a girl growing up in a small village, the tales that marked her adulthood. I want to share with you all her losses and the ultimate winnings. The following is one of those stories reconstructed from my childhood memory. "We took no child," the accused mother shouted when the prosecutor asked her to state her name. "You have nothing but accusations." The woman pointed at the man standing before her. "Nothing." Unlike her son, who gave single-word yes and no answers, she spoke with fury. "We didn't eat his flesh either. These officers said they found evidence next to your cooking fire," the prosecutor stated. "Not my cooking fire." She jabbed a finger on her chest. "Many people cook there." That statement alarmed Timiro. Was it possible she didn't kill and eat her brother? There were witnesses that testified to that point. Even her own son said he'd seen the remains there, but no one put the baby in her hands, dead or alive. Timira hated this woman and didn't want to have any sympathy for her, but she couldn't help but look at her with pity. She seemed to have not a single support in the entire village. No one spoke on her behalf, and it seemed the woman was doomed even before the proceedings began, just like Timira's family. Everyone seemed to revel at her agony. "Your neighbor testified you were the only one using that cooking fire," the prosecutor said. "She knows nothing about it," the woman yelled. "She lives a mile away. Did you not offer your son some of the meat? A rabbit meat, not a child's meat. We are not animals. We're not hyenas." She took a long breath. "I had seen nothing until the officer pointed out something by the cooking fire," the mother yelled from the stand. "I don't know how it got there." She lunged forward as if she wanted to jump out of her chair and attack the man before her. "We are innocent. I tell you we are." Timiro turned to the woman and locked gaze with her for the first time. Was she innocent? Timiro wanted to form the words into a sentence and pose the question directly to the woman. No one really asked her if she was guilty, but the prosecutor's words jumped and filled the space between her and the woman, and the moment was lost. "Do you mean to tell me the officers lied?" the prosecutor asked. "Your neighbor lied? Your son lied?" "I know nothing about them, but I am telling you my truth." The woman's vehement denial grew more potent after each question. "I took no child." "Yes, everyone lied but you." The prosecutor's tone was sarcastic. Mocking, he dismissed her with a tamed chuckle. 2 days after the woman's testimony, the judge held court again to announce his findings. Reading his ruling went on and on for what seemed like hours. Tamira hoped this man would balance the scale. She waited for him to make a reference to the woman's denial, but the judge didn't mention the accused mother and her son's statements of innocence. Their testimony that they kidnapped no child and didn't eat his flesh was lost in his droning statements. The crowd, much smaller than the previous 4 days, remained quiet. They were waiting and listening intently, holding their collective breath lest they miss the conclusion. In the end, the verdict guilty, the sentence death by firing squad came so fast Tamira thought she'd missed something. She scanned the area around her to see if the others bore the same sense of confusion that rattled her. She turned to her father in search of some understanding upon his face, but only found the same bewilderment filling the deep creases on his forehead. Tamira, next to her father and brother, remained seated in the wooden stool long after the thin crowd dispersed, except the judge and the lawyer. That's it? Tamira's father gained no comfort from the verdict or the sentence. Despite all the testimony, no one approached to answer his most salient question: why his boy? Of all the children in the camp, what made them choose his child? He met with the judge before the trial and insisted on learning the answer to that question. He'd made clear what he needed to know. In the end, he didn't get it. They had to pay for their crime, the prosecutor said. That's the best we can do. I gained nothing from their death, Tamira's father said. Justice had been served. The judge got off his tall stool and stood in the middle of the circle. That's the most important thing for us and by extension for you. It's not my justice but the city's revenge, Tamira's father said. They killed someone, so they have to die. The judge moved a little closer to Tamira and her family. We have to see to it that they are punished. Then what? Tamira's father asked. His question landed on the empty field with a loud thud. Where do I go from here? It wasn't until decades later that Tamira understood what her father meant that day long ago when he asked the question no one could answer because they didn't understand his pain, the depth of his loss, the shattered foundation of his former life. Their conviction didn't restore his faith that he'd done all he could have done to get his answers. Their demise offered no comfort from the lingering doubt that it was his fault. All of it, the loss of his son and his wife's departure. You go home, take care of your family, knowing they will hurt no one else. The judge took 2 steps away from the family. Sleep in peace, knowing they would hurt no one else. He stood off, got in the awaiting vehicle, and the car drove off. An hour must have passed before Tamira, her father, and her brother got up to go. The sun was in the middle of the sky, covering the ground with hot, dry beams. Farah couldn't walk. Her father had to carry him. They stopped at the market to pick up food with the few remaining shillings her father had in his pocket. Exhausted and hungry, they went to the camp. My mother, the person and the patient, can be found in all your podcast streaming apps, or head to my website, fortumakuso.com, to listen to the entire season. Please do not forget to listen, like, share, and follow. And join me next week as I share with you another episode of my mother's journey as both the person and the patient. Thank you.